Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slam of Wrestling. Myself Suprit, and this is the AEW Dynamite review for November 18th, 2020. I'm joined by Abhishek Aneja, aka Abby Maniac. What's up, Abby?
I'm absolutely fine, Supreet. How about you?
I'm doing good. I heard that you are a little under the weather today.
Yes, a little bit. I have not prepared many of the notes in much detail with regards to today's show. Yes.
So, what did you think about this week's Dynamite?
Uh, I guess it was uh, rather decent kind of a show. It was not very entertaining or exciting or something like that. It was, you know, going with the flow sort of a show. I guess there were, uh, you can say, one or two segments which maybe we were expecting that there could be something out of the ordinary, or it could be something exciting, like, for example, the contract signing with John Moxley and Kenny Omega. But they pulled off something else out of the hat. So we can see what happened, and uh, it could transpire even beyond their match and something. So it is good with regards to AEW programming for the coming future. It is good, whatever they did. So it is fine. And we do not need any shenanigans being put to the fray with regards to Kenny Omega and John Moxley, because they have done that last year. So I don't think that they need that this year. They were going forward with the vision of having a New Japan style of a match, which has basically no shenanigans with regards to weapons being used or something like that. It is basically traditional wrestling singles match, hard hitting Japanese style. Go for it. So we do not need any other thing except to give the fans what they want. Two of the top wrestlers of the world fighting it out and giving the fans a treat, and just proving that who is the best right now and who deserves to be the champion. That's pretty much it.
Even I thought it was a decent Dynamite. There was a lot of weird booking um, throughout this show.
Hmm.
We had Top Flight versus Young Bucks. We also had Inner Circle. So they were in Las Vegas. We had the contract signing between Kenny Omega and John Moxley. Serena Deeb defended the NWA Women's Championship against Thunder Rosa. And also the main event was Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. But before that, if you're new to this channel, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell for all notifications. We here in Slam of Wrestling cover all pro wrestling related stuff, including reviews for Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW Dynamite, and New Japan as well. So first match of the night was Young Bucks versus Top Flight. We had a video package for Top Flight. It was said that they were trained by Motor City Machine Guns, and this team looked up to the Guns and also the Young Bucks. So we get to this match. Nick and what was his name? Yes, Nick and Darius start off. So Darius was avoiding super kicks with his speed. Nick did a arm drag. Darius was back on his feet. Tag to Matt and tag to Dante. Matt tried to ground Dante but fails. Nick and Matt were sent to the outside. Darius and Dante fake a dive and pose. Dante and Matt had some exchanges. So tag made to Nick, and they knock off Dante and also his tag team partner Darius off the apron. So from there it was all the Bucks. So they were doing their signature moves at a time. At one point, Darius heads his mat and tag made to Dante. A lot of quick exchanges and a Spanish fly to Matt for a 2 count. Bucks to the outside. Dante and Darius one by one hit their dives. Um, so final parts of the match saw Bucks hitting the MCMG signature slice bread power bomb for a 2 count. So what happened was at the end they got rid of Darius and hit the BTE trigger on Dante for the win, and that was it. And this was a good match. It was a good showing for the up and coming team, Top Flight. What did you think about this match?
I found the match very entertaining, and this is the first time that I got introduced to the team of Top Flight. I guess you also uh, were on the same boat, I guess.
Yes, this was my first time too watching Top Flight.
Yes. So, with regards to that, uh, this match was very entertaining. It was going with the flow, and it wasn't a traditional tag match by any sorts. Yes, it was a modern day tag match, which is expected of the Young Bucks, and both the teams were on their top game, in my opinion. And Top Flight, in the initial part of the match, they took control of the match with their speed, their offense, and their athleticism. They're young, they're hungry, and it was very great to see their hunger. But their momentum got halted by the champions, that is the Young Bucks. And the offense and the athleticism of Top Flight was very impressive, as you just mentioned, and it was very impressive. The match was competitive. Both the teams brought it to each other, and back and forth innovative offense was on display for between both the teams. And at the end, we saw the BTE trigger sealing the deal for the Young Bucks. And there was an ambush post match by the Hybrid 2 or the TH2.
Yeah, so they attacked Top Flight until Young Bucks came for the save. So they are setting up a little angle between all three teams for the future.
Mhm, probably. And it is good because I have said in the past that TH2 has been underutilized for quite some time. They are a good tag team. They have paid their dues and they have proven themselves in Lucha Libre AAA, and they should be given a chance. And if they are being given a chance right now, that three tag teams are coming to the fray for the tag team championship, and whose basic bread and butter is speed, athleticism, and the offense which comes about those two things. So that is great. That is great, and it would make for good television for us. So it is great. Looking forward to it.
So from that we get to the inner circle. So these guys went to Las Vegas. A fun fact here. So Americans going to Las Vegas is equivalent to us Indians going to Goa.
Yes.
So this segment was two parts, and to talk about this segment they did here, it was not cringe, but it was ridiculous.
Hmm.
So they started from we had all the inner circle members in a club playing some card games which Guevara and Otis sucked at. MJF and Jericho were ordering some drinks. Both men were trying to order different type of drinks. So at the end, they settled to a strong drink, which was actually too strong. So everyone was drunk at this point. Santana and Otis said they wanted to take this to the end. So they wanted to take this to the next level. So in comes Conan. So he
Hmm.
gives all of them some green stuff. So from being drunk, all of them are high. So for some reason, we see a man in a dragon costume, and all of them were back to the bar. Guevara and MJF were having some conversation where Guevara said he hates MJF only to laugh it off. Wardlow and Hager were staring at each other as they beat up random dudes. And I wrote here, this felt like I was watching a Golmaal movie.
I would agree. I would agree.
So that was part one. Part two was to be continued. So we get to a John Moxley promo. He talks about his dad and recalls a story where his dad once told him that they are the good guys. He talks about his world title reign so far. He mentions he's got a pregnant wife at home and he's currently holding two titles in two different continents. He said he will beat Omega and prove that he is the best wrestler in the world. He is the champion. His father's son, John Goddamn Moxley. This was a great promo, and also congratulations to both Moxley and Renee.
Yes, congratulations.
And we talked about this little last week about why they are doing Moxley versus Omega this soon. I
Hmm.
have a theory on this. I assume you also have the same theory. It could be John Moxley is preparing himself for Wrestle Kingdom 15.
Yes, I read that somewhere. Yes, I read that somewhere.
So they
He
could
is.
be yes. So they could be cutting, doing this, like getting the title of Moxley right now. Give him a month time so he can go to Japan, maybe quarantine himself, and then prepare himself for Wrestle Kingdom 15.
Yes, yes, that's happening.
And his thing is, and the reason he has to go to Japan is to drop the IWGP US Championship to Kenta, not retain it.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's that's reasonable. Uh, that's perfectly reasonable because he has such a stature here, uh, being a world champion, and he won't be now. But the fact is that he has such a stature and he has that superstardom. He doesn't need that championship. His presence there, his feud with anybody in New Japan Pro Wrestling would only draw people, whether it is on New Japan World or it is in the audience. It would. So he doesn't need the title now. It was a great thing to introduce him to the audience there and to give him the championship and give him a solid run and you can say establish his dominance, so to speak. Now they can give the title to Kenta, and to the WWE viewers, it is Hideo Itami, whatever the fuck. And so now the title and uh, can go forward and it can be defended with the wrestlers there who are of probably US origin or something like that. And it would be it would be getting defended every other time, and Kenta is would be a great uh, placeholder, great holder of the championship. He is very talented.
Or they could, I think they are trying to bring that championship to America because they have their own American show going on NJPW World. So that could be the reason. There is a lot of
Yes.
reasons regarding this whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
Even I think Moxley will be the only top draw foreigner to compete at Wrestle Kingdom this year because Jericho can't go there right now, and Jericho actually has nothing to do in New Japan at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into the next match on Dynamite. It was Orange Cassidy versus Kip Sabian. This went 11 minutes. Miro was on commentary. So Sabian went for a slap, but he misses Cassidy with a slap of his own. Cassidy went for hands in his pockets, but Sabian with a headlock. Cassidy escapes a second attempt at putting the hands in his pocket, but Sabian started working on the arms. A third attempt by Cassidy, but Sabian counters and slams him to the mat. So what happened was Sabian tried for a leg takedown. Cassidy didn't go down, and finally he got his hands in his pocket, and he easily escapes. So Cassidy with the quick offense, dropkick to Sabian, Sabian to the outside, Cassidy with a tope. So Penelope Ford tried to stop Cassidy. So this caused a slight distraction as Sabian kicks Cassidy off the apron. So Sabian was in full control. He scored a bunch of 2 counts. At one point, Cassidy got a surprise roll up for a two. So Sabian was back in the attack. He misses a corner drop kick. Cassidy with a bunch of offense. A tornado DDT gets two. A diving DDT for another two. So final parts of the match saw both men with a lot of reversals and exchanges. So at the end, it was Cassidy getting the mouse trap for the win, and that was it. It was a decent match at best. And what was your thoughts on this match?
I would agree. It was a decent match. It was not very, you can say, impactful or very exciting or entertaining, or there was something that people would be very much invested into. No, nothing of the sort. It was just that the fact that there is a rivalry, a feud between the best friends and Kip Sabian, Miro, and Penelope Ford, these two groups. And it stems from the fact that uh, best friends broke the arcade during their bout against FTR for the gold inadvertently, I suppose. The arcade Miro brought as a wedding gift for Kip Sabian. So that is basically the premise for this whole shit show. What is happening? So it was a competitive match. There wasn't any spot where I guess a person, either Kip or Cassidy, had a substantial advantage over a long stretch of time. Yes, it was a competitive bout, but it wasn't. The story isn't compelling enough for us to, get invested and care enough. And at the end, Cassidy pinned Kip Sabian via the mousetrap. And the fact is, also, I am recalling that you only said that you are not yet sold on this gamer gimmick of Miro and Kip Sabian. Is it still, or you have just parted ways with that thought that it is what it is? What is your take right now with regards to the gimmick?
I'm still not into this gimmick going on with Miro and also Sabian. As a
Mm-hmm.
Miro as a in-ring competitor, I can buy that, but not into the gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
it looks like this is a feud that should be on Dark and not on Dynamite. Sometimes that's the feeling that crosses in my mind.
Probably, but the fact is that you have a legit star, whatever, Orange Cassidy, who has been in feuds with the likes of Cody Rhodes and Y2J Chris Jericho. Sorry, I should not say Y2J. People would get triggered. I would say anything, they would get triggered. Uh, Chris Jericho. So the fact is that he has two wins over Chris Jericho, so they would not seclude any program which has Orange Cassidy to AEW Dark. And he has a cult following of sorts across the globe. So he would be on Dynamite.
So next we had the contract signing between Kenny Omega and John Moxley. So Tony Schiavone was in the ring. Omega came out first. So his intro stated both his and Moxley's accomplishment were very similar, but except the one difference is that Omega is a wrestling observer Hall of Famer and Moxley is not. So Moxley was supposed to come out next, but he was laid out in the back with a bloody nose. So Shivani wanted Omega's comments on this. Omega said Moxley is making yet another excuse, and he promises to beat Moxley next week and become the new AEW champion. So, what are your thoughts on what happened in this entire segment? And do you
Is it
think
next
that?
week or is it next to next week?
Oh, I'm so December 2, right? Yes, it's not next week.
Uh,
Yeah, right. You're right. So, what? As I was saying, what did you think about them doing this segment this way? And do you think it could be that they don't want Omega cutting promos? Like he's not a bad promo, but he's not that quote unquote promo guy.
mm, probably, probably, but I don't think that that could be a problem. The only thing that comes to my mind with regards to this, that could be that they have done this shit, building this match and the shenanigans which go in that last year.
Hmm.
Everything, the coffee table, other stuff, the baseball bat with the barbed wire, teasing the match and stuff like that. It all has happened. So now there's, I guess, nothing left. So what they did, I guess, right now was that they have teased a future feud that someone attacked John Moxley. Now, who could it be? Now, was it someone who wants to jeopardize this December 2nd bout? Is it somebody who doesn't want Kenny Omega to win the championship or have a match with John Moxley? Is it Hangman Adam Page? Possibly.
It could be Hangman Page,
It could be. It could be. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
or
And
maybe,
it,
or maybe it could be Omega himself or the Young Bucks. Some
yes,
equation right there.
yes. And it could be Lance Archer too. He hasn't gotten a match.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are many aspects to cover with regards to the World Championship. There are many people. He has a target on his back, and anybody can, fire a bullet on it. So who is the person who attacked him? It will get revealed in the near future. So this incident impacts both Kenny Omega and John Moxley and their match on December the 2nd. So they have to, you know, wrap their head around that and also go through that who could it be, and it would happen in the near future. Right now, Kenny Omega just did what his cleaner gimmick gives him. He just signed the contract, and being a jerk, being a bitch, and being a guy who doesn't give a flying fuck about the other person, he just did that. He did that and he went away. And he said that I would have my match on December 2nd. That's it. The only thing that is in his mind is December the 2nd World Championship match, and he getting the championship, and he getting the number one spot in the industry. That's it. That's pretty much it.
So we were back to Vegas. So Jericho has a new member of the inner circle. It's not MJF. It's a fake Elvis Presley. So MJF talks about being a lone wolf and always wanted to join a wolf pack. MJF calls them his blood brothers. So Guevara wanted to cut himself to prove that statement. So change of scene here. We had Jericho and Elvis in a bed together. Both freak out at this sight. So Guevara was in a fountain. He finds out he has three wives. MJ was in a bathtub and he had writing all over his face. Otis was working out for some reason. Santana was feeding chickens. So Jericho and Elvis hear someone crying behind closed doors. So they open the door and it's Hornswoggle in diapers. He was crying. So Jericho said they have a problem in their hands. And after that, Jericho was briefly on commentary to hype up their tag team match, himself and Hager versus SCU next week. And that was it.
It was basically a callback to the Hangover series, and they are just prolonging the inevitable. And in the in doing so, they are trying, or they are succeeding to entertain the audience. So that's pretty much it, what they are trying to do. And maybe they are succeeding too, because at the end of the day, you have to entertain the audience. You have to uh, get them invested in your story so that they would care when things finally break out. So it is good they are getting people invested, and a good callback to the Hangover.
Did you watch
Yes,
the Hangover movie?
I have watched. I have watched, but it has been a while. It has been a while.
Was there a
Uh,
sequel to it?
yes, there has been two, or I guess three.
Okay. I think I also watched it,
Yes.
but I don't remember.
hmm Second one was probably the best one, probably, but nonetheless, uh, they have to do what they have to do. Basically, now next week they have a match. They would hype it up. All the members would be ringside. So we have to see if there is any, trouble in paradise, so to speak, or not. Everything goes smooth right now for the near future, but in the far future, then things start unraveling.
You
I
said
would want that only.
you said that they should stretch this up for the next 6 months.
Yes.
So in that 6 months, we could see Jericho and Hager ranking them number one, ranking higher in the tag team ranking system, and go after the tag team titles.
probably, probably, and
Could you
then
see them? Could you see them winning the titles?
no, I don't think so. No, it could be that MJF, due to his stupidity or inadvertently, which comes off as inadvertent to us and to others, but it is, you can say, blatant and it is voluntary. He costs them the championship because the fact is that he wanted to win the belt and not the other members of the inner circle. First, or maybe even uh, last. There could be many things that would happen.
So next we had Pac versus the Blade. So Eddie Kingston was on commentary. This went 11 minutes. Pac starts strong with a shotgun dropkick. So Pac works on Blade in the corner and to the outside. Pac hits a missile dropkick as Blade retreats to the outside. Uh, Pac and Butcher had a little face to face. This allowed Blade to take out Pac. Blade sends Pac into the barricade. Blade in full control at this point. Blade suplex. So what he did was Blade suplexed and tossed Pac into the ropes. Pac on the apron. He hit a sloppy-looking slingshot DDT. Pac building up some momentum and went to the outside for the bunny. So Butcher attacks him from the back. Back in Blade hits the doctor bomb for two. So final parts of the match saw a little back and forth. Pac hits a superplex for two. He takes out Butcher. Pac then hits a shooting star followed by the brutalizer for the win, and that was it. A okay match, even though there were some weak points here and there. The one thing I hated is from the match to the post match angle. Pac was made to look like a dumb baby face.
Hmm.
So that's what I hated.
Dumb how?
For example, he knew he could have been attacked by the other members of Kingston's family, but he still got into that trouble.
That is his, I guess, character that he is a hothead and he's a bastard and he's
But
a hothead basically.
not every baby face. No, it's a typical thing they do it. Nowadays we call it dumb baby face syndrome. But he should stand out from the other baby faces.
Hmm.
It's
I
it,
get.
it's the same thing we criticize with WWE's baby faces.
Hmm.
So that's the one thing I hated about this whole thing. So what did you
Hmm.
think about this match? And after that, let's talk about the post-match angle.
Yeah, with regards to the match, it was a competitive match. It was an okay match. It was not very extraordinary, just like the other bouts we have discussed till now. And it was in the said story that Blade was not at 100% as he was a part of the bunkhouse match last week against the Natural Nightmares, that is QT and Dustin Rhodes. It was a good match. He got bloodied, something like that. Competitive match at the end. We didn't see a Black Arrow. We saw a shooting star as Blade was resting on his stomach, not on the back. So we had a shooting star and we had a blue brutalizer submission for the victory for Pac. Pac wins in his return. And Eddie Kingston was also very entertaining on
So what
commentary.
so what happened was post-match, Pac wanted to cut a promo on Kingston, but again he gets taken out by Butcher, and we get a 3-on-1 beatdown as Kingston started cutting a promo, and all three of them started beating up Pac until Phoenix tried to save Pac, but he was outnumbered. So Penta came out with a chair. So he played along with Kingston only to chase them out, and the Dead Triangle was reunited. I think it was a little weird booking here. 1 week ago, Penta beat up his brother. Now this week they are back to being normal. He's back with Phoenix, and they are reformed Dead Triangle. It looks like they kind of did a little. I think let's say they rushed up things here. What do you think?
I also think that it is a little weird because my estimation was, or my prediction, or my booking was that you could have booked uh, Pentagon as a villain moving forward with Eddie Kingston and his group. Meanwhile, on the other side, you can have Pac and you can have Ray Phoenix. But they have other plans that we should have 3-on-3, or else where would we get another person to tag with Pac and Phoenix?
I think
Probably.
I think they are doing something like Pac and Phoenix versus two members of the family next
Hmm.
week.
Hmm. Probably. But they got to have whole groups with equal number of members, so they didn't want to add any other person in the said feud. Probably the participants in this whole feud didn't want any other uh, participant to be added. That could also be the reason. But whatever it is, Pentagon or Penta El Zero Miero looked very much inclined towards Eddie Kingston last week. Probably he would defect to Eddie Kingston in the coming weeks. Probably. We have to wait and see.
So we had backstage James Cargill. So she was along with Nyla Rose. So they were attacking Brandy Rhodes. So what happened was she crushed Brandy's arm between a chair. So Serena Deeb and Red Velvet came out to help out Brandy. So that is setting up Brandy and Jade Cargill feud, and they will be also involving the other women that were there to play along in this storyline. Maybe.
I guess probably not, but they got to have something, then they can have something. Basically, this feud revolves around Cody Rhodes and Shaquille O'Neal. This
And
is
that's
only,
and that feud
yes,
also up in the air. Shaq and Cody.
yes, they that match or whatever they are planning, that would probably happen at Revolution. So that is quite far. So till the time Revolution comes, they have to build towards that. So right now on television, Cody Rhodes is involved in the TNT championship situation with the other people. So they are using the ladies to prolong the feud and build the feud till I guess when is the pay-per-view? February?
February.
February. February. Probably.
So we have the NWA Women's Championship match: Serena D versus Thunder Rosa. Uh, so both women start with some technical offense, several submission exchanges. Pace picked up as Rosa it is sent on deep for two. So Rosa was gloating on the apron. Deep capitalized with a dragon screw. So Deep is working on Rosa in the corner and also locks in a submission in the corner. Deep in full control until Rosa hit a jawbreaker. Rosa with the offense hits a underhook suplex for a 2 count. Uh, so Deep was trying to go after the leg, but Rosa avoided it. Um, so Deep spears Rosa on the apron, which gets a 2 count. Rosa fights back a German and a missile dropkick. So Reba came out. So she was distracting the referee on the outside. Uh, so from the back comes Britt Baker. She hits a neck breaker on Rosa on the stage. So Deep with a power bomb for a 2 count. So Deep went for a second attempt, but Rosa reverses with a roll up for a 2 count. So a lot of pin attempts being exchanged. So finally, Deep hits a underhook face buster for the win, and that was it. So so the match here it started strong. It went a little downhill in the middle, but they picked it up again at the ending, and it turned out to be a really good match. What did you think about this?
Yeah, it was a good match. It was a good match. Quite better than the other of the shit show that was on this card. It was a good match, and I was very looking forward to watch this match as I was unable to watch their previous meeting at Primetime Live that was on Fight. Their that is in their last meeting on Primetime Live on Fight, Serena captured the championship in a highly competitive bout from Thunder Rosa. Serena defended the title the very next night on Dynamite. Serena Deeb defended the championship against Alison Kay or Sienna at Full Gear in the buy-in successfully, I might add. And in during the match, as you just said, she got a visit from the doctor, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And I would like to just go back to Full Gear just uh, for a second. After the match with Alison Kay, Thunder Rosa came and she demanded for a rematch for her title, which Serena Deeb accepted, which manifested to tonight. That was the whole story with regards to today's match. And at one point tonight, Serena was targeting Rosa's left knee via multiple dragon screw lariats, and we also had, I just said, a doctor visit, but it didn't derail the flow of the match, in my opinion, much. The visit transpired after a Twitter exchange, as the commentators said. Serena Deeb defeated Thunder Rosa via pinfall. Then Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker had an altercation post match also.
Post match, so Rosa was mad. So she saw Baker in the crowd, back in the crowd, might I add. So she went after Baker because Britt Baker is an idiot. So both women started brawling until officials came out to separate them, and that was it.
Now we have to see that what transpires after all this chaos. I think that now Thunder Rosa is done with the NWA Women's Championship, probably. So Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker would be the next feud, which would be the center of attention on Dynamite.
Speaking about this upcoming feud, I did a little fantasy booking here of my own regarding
Mm-hmm.
the women's division. Want to hear?
Yes.
So, like you said, Thunder Rosa is out of the NWA women's title picture, right?
Yes.
So, obviously, you have to start this upcoming Rosa and Baker feud, but you
Mm.
can do that after Shida drops the title. Like they need to figure out a way to get the title on Baker maybe at Revolution. So meanwhile, Rosa should be off TV, and they can use this whole free agency thing as a reason. Like there is still will be some doubts whether she stays in AEW or goes somewhere else. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So on the other hand, Nyla Rose can take the NWA Women's title of Deeb. So now we have a scenario where Shida and Deeb can elevate the new women on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Rosa, they can bring her back to TV as being the official member of the roster. So they can continue or maybe start slash you know go on with their feud, and she can end this feud by taking the title of Baker and becoming the new AEW Women's Championship. Okay, so back to Nyla Rose, she can drop the NWA Women's title to a actual NWA talent. So this is a 3 to 6 month booking, and by then we will have a new women elevated to become credible challengers for Rosa. And if the time is right, they can also bring in the Joshis. So the women's division at that point will be at least good or decent.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I think that giving they would not be open to giving the NWA Women's Championship to AEW talent probably. I
Maybe
think that.
maybe try to stretch out. Maybe give something someone like Nyla Rose something to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should like they had a small interaction in that Brandy Rhodes Jade Cargill segment
Mm-hmm.
before the NW Women's match. So that's the story they can go through.
They can go through the story, but they would not be. I would like to say, NWA would not be open to giving the championship to an AEW talent that is uh, Nyla Rose. For the feud, all for it. There would not be any problem. That Nyla Rose and Serena Deeb are having a feud, there would not be any problem. But the fact is that when the championship match comes about, Serena Deeb would be the winner.
But the
Because the fact is,
yeah,
because the fact is that they are also having the championship being defended on primetime live on Fight.
okay.
Then there you cannot have an AW talent appear there. So you should have a talent who is signed to NWA or an independent talent.
So isn't Serena D my AEW talent?
Uh, I don't know.
She is an AEW talent.
Is she?
Yeah, I think they did sign her before Full Gear. I think.
But mhm.
I think I cleared your doubt there.
But is she having the first the contract or the zero tier contract?
I think they
They
gave her that
all
Serena
elite.
Davis. Yes, all
All
in
elite.
treatment. Yes.
Hmm. Mm,
Low tier or not, they have given her a AEW contract.
hmm. A low tier would not be having the announcement on social media, I would say. The first tier, which is contractual, probably, that could be having an announcement on social media. And you are under contract with AEW. Why can't we have uh, Shida, Baker, and Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's Championship?
You want a triple threat?
Yeah,
Maybe they can. Yeah, like I said, they should figure out a way to get the title on Baker. They can do that.
then they could also protect the champion, their current champion right now, that is Shida, probably, because there were three people and she just comes to break the pinfall and she is oh so close, but the other two get the pin and Baker wins probably, or Rosa wins, whoever wins. We will not go into that much detail right now.
But the fact is, Thunder Rosa is the X factor for the improvement of this entire division.
Absolutely.
So, moving forward, we had backstage segment for John Silver and Anna Jay. So, the legend John Silver was cutting a promo for Anna Jay. Um, so, he said that she was just a rookie at first, but after joining the Dark Order, uh, she went on to be ranked number 5 in the women's ranking. So Jay then talked about Shida and recalls their their last encounter. She wants she wants Shida that she's the new Anna Jay, number 99. So they will be having a match next week for the title. Um, so from that we get to the main event. We had Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. So Darby had a pre-match video package where he was sitting on the top of a church. So he was inside the church. He lights himself on the fire. Sorry, he lights himself on fire. The one thing that is positive about this is that he didn't burn the TNT championship. So Taz was on commentary for this match as Allen and Starks start the match. So both men looking to out wrestle each other. Both men exchange slaps. So tag made to Cage and Cody. So what happened was Cody no sold a shoulder tackle from Cage for no reason. So Cody was using his quickness to get the better of Cage. Cody with a moonsault to Cage, which gets a 1 count. So this made Taz to leave the commentary team and come near ringside. So tag to Allen as they double team Cage. So Taz tried to trip Cody. This allowed Cage to blindside Cody. So Arn Anderson, he threw a chair inside the ring. So this gets him kicked out. So he went to the back. So back to the match. Cage and Starks were dominating Cody. Cody somehow made the tag to Allen as he ran wide on both men. At one point, Allen had Starks in a waist lock. Cage came from the back and he Germans both men at the same time. So we see all four men hitting their big moves on each other. So Cage power bombs Allen. He went for a second one, but Allen counters it into a sunset bomb for a 2 count. So final parts of the match saw Allen up top. Starks got Allen by the leg. Cage with a jumping kick. So Cage hit a avalanche drill claw to Allen, and this got him the win. Really good main event here. Uh, Cage got the win, so in that way he continued his momentum. What did you think about this match?
Yes, I also think that it was a good match in the second half. And with regards to, it was a competitive match, a back and forth action between the two teams. There wasn't a very stretched out moment with the any of the two teams being in control, the isolation technique being applied like a traditional tag match. There wasn't any of the sort, I guess. Probably it happened during the commercial break, probably. And Brian Cage now has pinned the TNT champion Darby Allin with an avalanche drill claw. So probably it seems that Brian Cage is going for the TNT championship, I guess now finally. Now
Yes.
Darby Allin and Brian Cage is finally happening. So बधाई हो probably. So it is probably now in the cards that now it is finally happening. And post match, it was a very, you can say, good, good, or I should say that I called it probably a little bit. I saw a little bit, a little glimpse of it last week because last week, uh, Will Hobbs came to the aid of the other two baby faces, that is Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes, at the end when all of the action had already happened. So it gives a, you can say, impression to us that how much was he willing to help out the baby faces or Cody and Darby Allin. So it happened. It happened post match.
So post match, what happened was, like you said, Starks and Cage were continuing their assault on Darby Allin. They also did the same thing to Cody. So Will Hobbs came out with a chair, and as Starks and Cage retreated, Hobbs posed with the FTW Championship only to hit Cody with the title. So Will Hobbs is the new member of Team Taz. So the entire team came out as they stood tall at the end. So, like you said, the obvious thing is Cage is getting the TNT title shot against Darby Allin. So maybe they can do Cody and Will Hobbs as there is still time for the Shaq thing.
Hmm. Yes.
So
But
that's the direction maybe they are heading towards.
yeah, yeah, it seems so too. And probably if the FTW championship doesn't, uh, you can say it doesn't mean squad, you can give that championship to Will Hobbs from Brian Cage because Brian Cage now is now gunning for the TNT championship. So,
If Brian Cage wins the TNT championship, then it's a logical thing to give the FTW title to Will Hobbs.
it is logical. I agree with that. But the fact
Hmm.
is now you are having Will Hobbs versus Cody Rhodes. So having some stakes is always good. And
Hmm.
he was holding the FTW championship. So that is why I was giving them a suggestion that it doesn't mean squad. You aren't giving the said title any meaning or respect. So throw it on Will Hobbs.
It's not an official championship, but that is Taz's way to legitimize the belt. That's what you're saying.
Hmm. Yes.
We'll have to wait and see. And that was Dynamite.
Yes, that was Dynamite for November 18th, 2020.
For a second, I thought this was the go home show for December 2nd.
I can understand.
So before we leave, where can these guys find you?
As you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Abbymaniac, ABBYMANIAC. And currently, I'm working with an independent wrestling promotion in India called Wrestle Square. You can also follow them on social media and also subscribe to their YouTube channel at Wrestle Square Pro Wrestling. And social media handles are at Wrestle Square.
You can find Slam Up Wrestling on Twitter at Slam Up W, Instagram at Slam Up Wrestling. Our podcast and reviews are mainly audio based, and if you don't want your YouTube app running for that, then you can catch Slam Up Wrestling on Anchor and Spotify as well. This was the AEW Dynamite review, and we'll see you guys next time.